This is Football Night in America, served by Applebee's.
Hello and welcome inside the studio. Maria Taylor alongside Tony Dungy. We've got Drew Brees here. We've got Mike Florio and Steve Kornacki is in the building. And that's because we have to wrap up week 16 for you and get you set for the final 2 weeks of the regular season. And we got to start with a game that we all had our eyes on. It was the Buffalo Bills, the New England Patriots, an opportunity for a little bit of revenge as the Bills went on the road. And that's exactly what they got.
Yes, they did. And I remember the first game in Buffalo. New England ran the ball on them, and the Buffalo safeties after the game, remember that? Yep. They're all upset with the question, hey, you questioned our defense. Well, they got a little payback this game. Held New England to 1 for 10 on third down, 14 for 32 throwing the ball. They played some defense. Josh Allen was great, but the defense was also.
I was going to say, and talk about payback, I know the offense wanted some payback as well for how they played in that first game, probably feeling like, you know, they really let them down as well. So they came out slinging the ball, right? And to your point earlier, Coach, you talk about New England. They knew they were going to come out and throw, and it's their job to stop it, and they couldn't stop it. And in large part, that's because of Josh Allen's versatility and his ability to scramble and make plays in the pass game, which he did on many occasions today to extend drives, convert third and longs, but also with his legs. He continues to be one of their leading rushers just about every week. And
Jake Abrahams, one of our statisticians, gave us a stat I could not believe. No turnovers, no takeaways. No punts.
Yeah.
First time for Bill Belichick defense ever.
And not only that, Josh Allen passed for 314 yards. You saw it, 3 passing touchdowns. It was impressive, and led his team in rushing, Mike Florio. I mean, the Bills certainly had revenge on the mind, an opportunity to retake the AFC East, and they were able to do both of those things.
And I think as they get closer to the end of the season, they're more willing to unleash Josh Allen as a runner. That makes him even more dangerous. They're less concerned about the potential for injury. They know that they have to go for it. I'm fascinated by the psychology of the Patriots. They haven't won since that night in Buffalo, that Monday night. They had a bye week. Then they lost on a Saturday night. Mac Jones said they didn't have enough energy when they came out against Indianapolis, and now they've lost again. I can't get used to seeing this from a Bill Belichick coach team. Almost like they kind of lost their edge a little bit. They got content with themselves after they beat the Bills. Bill Belichick actually smiled after that game, and I can't help but wonder whether or not they just kind of, they lost that laser focus and they're having a hard time getting it back.
Yeah, no smiles for Bill Belichick, but we're all smiles because Steve Kornacki is here. He helped us break down the impact of the matchup between the Bills and the Patriots.
Yeah, I mean, it's trading places in the AFC East. You could see coming into today, the Bills were a 38% shot to win this division. They beat the Pats. They've basically doubled their chances of winning the AFC East. They are now a 75% shot, the Bills are, to win the division. The Patriots, a 24% chance. Remember, the Bills right now have the tiebreaker over the Patriots. Basically, if the Pats are going to get back and still win this division, what would it take? The Patriots would have to win out. They'd have to beat Jacksonville. They'd have to go to Miami and win at the end of the year. That's a game Patriots at Miami late season they've had some trouble with in the not-too-distant past. But the Patriots would have to win their last 2, and then they would need the Bills to lose one of these games. Atlanta and the Jets, they are both going into Orchard Park. Pats need the Bills to slip up somehow in one of those and win out here. Otherwise, if the Bills go 2 for 2, and they certainly should based on the win probability, the Bills win the AFC East.
How about that? Well, let's talk about the AFC North now. And it's the Cincinnati Bengals that we're talking about. They're on the cusp of winning it, and it comes on the heels of a huge game from Joe Burrow, beating the Ravens and just passing for over 500 yards. It's no big deal.
Yeah, and I know the Ravens' defense is depleted, but this is a rivalry game. This is a game where emotions have been high about this matchup all year long. Cincinnati went into Baltimore and beat up on them pretty good the first time. So you felt like this was going to be a close game, and it wasn't. It was an explosive offensive juggernaut of a performance by Cincinnati, which we've seen a number of different times this year. I think the times when Cincinnati's got in trouble is when they've just turned the ball over. So if they've got a ton of weapons, they have the ability to run the football with Joe Mixon, and as a result of that, I feel like they've jumped out to some leads, which has really allowed their pass rush to really tee off on the opposing offense, which is one of the strengths of their team. So where they are right now is kind of where I think I expected them to be. What I'm interested to see is how this potentially plays out with Cleveland in their division, because Cleveland, believe it or not, still has a chance to win this if that plays out, and they are playing the Cincinnati Bengals Week 18.
And we've seen this with Cincinnati before. We've seen the explosive where you say, wow, man, this team is fantastic. And then they'll follow it up with kind of one of those lemon performances and struggle a little bit. So can they come back against Kansas City with a lot on the line and play their A game? If they can, it's going to be a great game.
Well, if anyone knows the inside workings of the Bengals, it's going to be Mike Florio. You actually got to talk to Joe Burrow. I mean, what are they thinking? This is a huge game on the horizon, but a huge win that they just put in the bank.
When I asked Burrow those questions, I started with the issue of the lack of consistency that we've seen from the Bengals. They've been up, they've been down, they win a couple. We assume that they're one of the best teams in the AFC, and then they lose a couple. He said that that's just the way it goes. Stuff like that happens. You're going to have highs and lows. It's how you respond to each one of them. You've got to stay level-headed whether you win or you lose and just move on to the next one. And for this next one, he knows that this is their opportunity to stake their claim to the division and also to prove that they belong among the best teams in the conference with the Chiefs coming to town. He knows they have a lack of playoff experience, but as he views it, the last 3 weeks have been like playoff games. The next 2 weeks are like playoff games. So if they do make it, they'll have some of that experience, even though when you look at the roster, there aren't a lot of guys there that have played in the single elimination round.
Yeah, confidence isn't short on the big play Bengals, but we keep mentioning it. They play the Kansas City Chiefs next. Let's talk about what the Chiefs did in Week 16. Just roll up about 375 yards of offense. No Travis Kelce, Coach. It didn't matter. It seems as though the Chiefs are operating at a higher level. What we're used to seeing them operate with.
It really was. They spread the ball around, and we talked during the week. Kelce's on COVID, Tyreek's on COVID. What if they don't play? How will they score? Right. Well, Travis Kelce didn't play. Tyreek Hill got 2 targets in the whole game. And it's a bunch of other guys who showed up.
Yeah, and I think it's the complementary nature of how they're playing now, too. You know, they were struggling so much on defense early on, offensively, taking too many chances, just maybe being a little overconfident. But they've certainly straightened it out on both sides of the ball. And I think they're complementing each other very well now. I think the defense has been one of those things that's really kept them in some of these games over the last 6 to 7 weeks. But now you see the offense really taking it to another level and playing the type of football that we would expect from the Chiefs. And from their playoff experience over the last few years, you feel like this is the time of year where they know how to play. And they know how to win these games. And they know if these games are close in the end, they've got the best chance to win all of them.
Mike, your takeaway from the Chiefs game?
Well, yeah, and to follow up on what Drew's saying, we see so many teams that have these uncanny and confusing and confounding lapses in games where you expect them to play better, like the Chargers did today. But I think the fact that the Chiefs dug a hole for themselves early and they felt that urgency far sooner than they ordinarily would, and this isn't going to be an easy season, and we're going to have to work, and we're going to have to fight, we're going to have to push ourselves to get better and better and better and better, and this is the not finished product, but close to the finished product, just in time for the playoffs. I mean, you know, it could be the best thing that ever happened to them coming off of a Super Bowl loss was to struggle early and have to take a step back and climb the mountain all over again with a fresh motivation, fresh incentive, and it's worked.
And even with all of those struggles, they still clinched their 6th straight division title. So it's impressive to see the Chiefs standing right where they are, and they play the Bengals next week. Now, the one game that was actually called by this guy over here were the Saints upsetting Tampa Bay. And so Tampa Bay was trying to get back on the snide and get a win in their win column, and they had to do it against the Carolina Panthers. But they had to do it, Drew, without Mike Evans, without Chris Godwin, who you absolutely love, and without Leonard Fournette. How did they do it?
Yeah, well, they had a week to prepare, and you take a guy like Tom Brady, you feel like no matter who he's able to play with, if he has a week to prepare, he's going to put those guys in the best positions to succeed. Now, getting back Antonio Brown, I think, was the key to today, and you could tell that Tom Brady wanted to get him involved as quickly as possible. But what I still am waiting to see is, as they begin to play better competition than the Carolina Panthers without a Chris Godwin, how are they able to work the middle of the field, and who becomes that player that Chris Godwin was, because his role was so extensive in this offense. He was the force blocker in most of the run game schemes. He was the guy who was working the middle of the field. He was also the guy who was getting a lot of the favorable matchups in the middle of the field. So while Antonio Brown can carry some of that burden, he's not going to carry all of it. So that's what I'm really interested to see, is who indeed takes on that role.
And Tampa, they're very versatile, and Byron Leftwich called a good game, and they put Antonio Brown in some spots to make plays on the outside. They got Cameron Brate involved, Gronk involved in the middle of the field. So they'll do it differently, but they still have some weaponry.
Yeah, 57% of their offense was missing Mike Florio, but Tampa Bay is still finding a way to get a victory in Carolina.
Here's what was most encouraging about it. Last year, there was a sense in that offense of interchangeable parts, that they could take a guy out, put another guy in, whoever it was, Brady was going to make it work. We had Rick Stroud of the Tampa Bay Times on PFTPM last week, and I asked him about that difference because it doesn't feel the same way this year, and he said he doesn't have the same rapport with everyone that he had last year. He's gravitated toward a few guys, and now those guys are gone. And I think what is the best for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going forward, how quickly Brady has pivoted to these other guys and has shown that he can develop the right rapport with them right away, with Mike Evans gone, with Chris Godwin gone, and with Leonard Fournette gone. And that's going to be critical to the Buccaneers. They got a couple more weeks to work on it before the playoffs, and they're going to have to be able to go with whoever's out there as injuries happen in the postseason. We saw them do it last year, and now they're in position to do it again this year.
Now, Mike, I'm going to come right back to you because I saw earlier this week on your podcast with Chris Sims that you had on a Minnesota Vikings ugly Christmas sweater situation. And so, it must have been a crushing loss for you to see the Vikings trying to just dig themselves out of the hole against the Rams. They played pretty well and still end up losing the game.
Yeah, and actually, see, I've evolved to the point where when I pick the Rams to win, and I picked the score to be 30-23, and it hits 30-23, my excitement from being the blind squirrel that finds a nut for a change overcomes any and all of my childhood lamentations about the Vikings not being any good. And is this the death blow for the Vikings? I think it comes next Sunday night if they can't beat the Packers at Lambeau Field, obviously. But the Rams, to win a game, when Matthew Stafford had 3 interceptions, when they kept handing it to the Vikings and the Vikings didn't take it, that's got to be encouraging for the team that manages to get a victory under those circumstances, because those are the days you're supposed to lose and you're still going to win.
2018 was the last time Matthew Stafford had 3 interceptions in one game. So, yeah, it must be a luxury at this point.
And, the Rams, they're in first place in their division. They're coming on. They're doing some things well. But I still think, Drew, when they run the ball and don't put it all on the quarterback, yeah, they've got talented receivers. They can throw it all over the park, but they don't need to. And that's not the style that they play best, I don't think.
I agree. It's easy to get infatuated with this strong-armed gunslinger quarterback who you just want to put in shotgun and spread everyone out and throw it. Listen, I've been in that situation and you love that, and yet you also understand that is not what's best for our offense. It's not what's best for the offensive line, and it's not what puts us in the best position to succeed. When they're at their best is when Matthew Stafford is under center, handing the ball off with these wide zone schemes. They're bringing tight ends back. It sets up their naked bootlegs. It sets up all their play-action shots where they get these speed receivers running up on safeties and getting these one-on-one 50-50 balls. But what I've really liked seeing is the rapport that's being developed between Matthew Stafford and Odell Beckham Jr. Yeah. Certainly we know that's existed with Cooper Kupp, and we wondered how that was going to be with OBJ. And I think that we have really started to see that come to fruition. And now having those 2 guys in addition to some of the other speedsters, it certainly makes them dangerous if they can get those guys matched up.
To come in the playoffs, though, you play Green Bay or Tampa, you're not going to be able to turn the ball over 3 or 4 times and win those games. You've got to be efficient.
Okay, we'll see whether or not they can be efficient as the postseason obviously is looming. So we've been through our headlines for the NFC and the AFC. Let's go back to Steve Kornacki to help us break down what is a very tightly contested race into that AFC.
Yeah, you got a traffic jam for the 7th spot. Let's, in fact, taking a look at the AFC standings here, let's actually draw a line after 6, because we talked about the Pats losing to the Bills, the Pats falling out of first place in the AFC East, but still, they're overwhelmingly well-positioned, the Patriots are, still to get a playoff berth. So are the Colts. You see, for those 2 wild card spots there, 5 and 6. Where things get crazy here is for the 7th spot. For the moment, the Ravens sit in the 7th spot, you can see. But look, the Chargers are also 8 and 7. The Raiders are 8 and 7, and we can, in fact, keep scrolling down this list and show you. You can go all the way down to 13th place. Denver, they're a game behind the Ravens right now. So you got 7 teams within 1 game of that 7th spot right now. You can see the teams that have 8 wins in terms of the probabilities, the Ravens, the Chargers, the Raiders, they have the highest probabilities here. Nobody's near 50%, though. They do have the highest probabilities. Remember, Raiders, Chargers, they're going to play the last week of the season. That could be key. But the biggest single variable right now, when you look at this pileup, it's Miami. They're 7-7. They have the game against the Monday night game against New Orleans. If Miami can win that, then they're also going to be 8-7. Sorry for my terrible writing. But if Miami wins that game, two things are going to happen. Number one, they are going to vault all the way up to the 7 spot. Miami would, at least for the moment, replace Baltimore in the 7 spot in the playoff picture. And that 13% chance that Miami has right now would actually climb to 25%. Miami would be a 1 in 4 shot to make the playoffs. So really, if the Dolphins can beat the Saints, you're really going to have 4 8-7 teams with pretty even chances to make the playoffs. Be a mad scramble those final 2 weeks.
All right, thanks, Steve. We got to get him a bigger touchscreen just to break down the 7th seed in the AFC. He's got to scroll to the bottom. But meanwhile, it's time to go to the speed round. We've broken down all of the headlines that we've seen last week. Let's talk about what we know for sure, and that is that the Chargers had a really tough loss against Houston. So if you had to give me one word for the loss, Drew, it would be what?
Costly. Costly in their playoff chances.
That was a kind one.
Yeah.
I'm going to go 2 words, Maria.
Okay.
Vintage Charger. Old school Chargers.
That was a mean one.
Yes. Losing games that we feel like they should win, losing games that they need in an ugly fashion.
Mike?
Yeah, disqualifying for me. I don't care what their percentages are. I think you should just take them off the board as a playoff team. If you can't beat Houston in Week 16, when you know that it's critical to get to the playoffs, you shouldn't want to be in the playoffs. You got no chance to win in January if you can't win this game.
Okay, you got a point. The best team in the AFC is who, Drew?
Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
They're rolling.
I'm going with the Chiefs right now until someone proves us different.
Okay, Mike?
Yeah, I agree. Right now it's the Chiefs, but the Bills could ride into the playoffs with a lot of momentum if they win their last 2.
And I'm going to give you one name to think about.
Yep.
Indianapolis Colts.
I knew that was coming,
Jonathan
Coach.
Taylor.
I knew it was coming.
They'll run the ball, play defense, cold weather. We'll see what happens in
Okay,
January.
I like how you slipped him in there.
Sneaky.
Yeah, he's sneaky.
Sneaky.
Okay, 2 NFC playoff spots left. Who gets them?
I think Philadelphia is going to get one for sure.
I agree.
And then after that, New Orleans, can they do it? Can they win out?
Well, since you took the Colts, I'm going to take the Saints
Okay.
for that last one.
Okay.
You set him up. Good job,
That's
Coach.
right. Appreciate
Mike,
that,
who are you
Coach.
going with?
Yeah, I'd say the Eagles and the 49ers at this point. I can't forget about them, even though they lost Thursday night to the Titans. They had that game won. Jimmy Garoppolo had a couple of untimely interceptions, one that could have given them a 14-0 lead, another one that opened the door to the Titans to tie the game up in the 3rd quarter. Otherwise, the 49ers were winning that game. They were overpowering the Titans. I think they can get it together for the last couple of games and get one of those spots.
All right, guys, you did great during the speed round, but our time is up. So that wraps up our Week 16, Week 17. We hope to see you again. We've got the Vikings, we've got the Packers, and of course, we got Football Night in America starting at 7 Eastern. We'll see you Sunday.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.